and welcome back to another episode of English Learning Podcast. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Leslie. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're talking about something everyone experiences, but not everyone agrees on.
Personal space. Or, as I like to call it, the please don't stand so close to me space.
Exactly. It might seem like a small thing, but how close is too close really depends on where you're from. So first, what is personal space? Basically, it's the physical distance we prefer to keep around us. It's that invisible bubble.
Right. Like when you're in line at the supermarket and someone's standing so close you can feel their breath on your neck? No, thank you.
That's way too close for comfort. Some people like more distance, while others don't mind being up close and personal.
And some folks? They just don't seem to notice at all. Ever been in a crowded elevator?
Ugh, yes. I always feel like saying, let's all pretend we're not touching shoulders right now. Now here's where it gets fascinating. That comfort zone, it varies a lot across cultures.
Absolutely. In places like the US, Canada, or Northern Europe, people usually prefer more space, especially with strangers.
But if you go to places like Latin America or the Middle East, standing close is a sign of warmth and friendliness. It's not weird, it's relational.
Right. And then you've got countries like Japan or South Korea, where people often maintain distance in conversation but deal with super-packed public spaces, like subways.
So the context matters. Formal settings, casual chats, crowded streets, they all come with different unspoken rules.
And unspoken is the key word here. Personal space is all about nonverbal cues. You have to read the room, or the line at the coffee shop, carefully. All right. I had a coworker from Southern Europe, super warm, super expressive. But when we talked, he'd stand maybe, I don't know, a foot away from me.
Wow, that's intense.
It was. I kept subconsciously backing up, until I literally bumped into the office printer.
Your personal space boundary had hardware limits.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, he didn't notice at all. To him, that closeness was totally normal.
So did you talk to him about it?
I did. But it took me a couple of weeks to work up the courage. I always wondered if it would seem rude to bring up personal space.
It can definitely feel awkward. I get what you mean.
Right? Maybe if it's a stranger, it's not so hard to ask them to step back. But when it happens at work or in a social setting, like in my case, could you really say something during your first conversation?
Interesting point. If it were me, I don't think I'd have a problem. I'm pretty direct, so I'd just say it, even the first time we met.
But wouldn't you worry about being judged?
Not really. What matters to me is keeping a comfortable distance. It's my space, it's for my comfort and peace of mind.
So what happens if you're living or traveling abroad, and the local idea of personal space is totally different from yours? Should you adapt, or hold your ground?
For me, I wouldn't change. I don't want to sacrifice my personal boundaries.
Fair enough. But I think there's something to be said for cultural adaptation. You know, when in Rome.
But what if adapting makes you uncomfortable?
Then maybe there's a middle ground. You don't have to become a hugger overnight, but you also don't need to act like someone's chasing you with a fork every time they get close.
I've done that. The polite backstep. It becomes this weird little dance.
So what do? Just tell people straight up, hey, don't stand so close to me.
Not exactly. I try to be polite. I think it's best to say something early on. The longer you wait, the harder it gets, just like your situation.
All right, fair. I walked right into that one. So, since you're clearly the expert here, can you share a few polite phrases our listeners could use?
Gladly. Try these. Excuse me, would you mind giving me a bit more room? Sorry, I just need a little space to feel comfortable.
You can also watch people's body language. If someone leans back or shifts away, they might be signaling discomfort. And if you feel like you might be standing too close, you could say, "Oh, let me give you some space. Are you okay with me standing this close?"
Great advice.
And if you're in a new country, observe. Notice how people stand, how much eye contact they make, how they move in social situations. You can learn a lot just by paying attention. Now that we've wrapped up the main discussion on personal space, it's time for our favorite segment, Vocabulary Corner.
Yes, we're going to go over some of the key expressions we used in today's episode. These are great for boosting your speaking skills and understanding natural English. I'll start us off. Ethan, in the beginning you said something was too close for comfort. What does that mean?
Good one. So, too close for comfort means something is uncomfortably close, physically or even emotionally. It makes you feel uneasy. For example, if someone's standing right behind you in line, that might feel too close for comfort.
Right, and it's often used in situations where your personal boundaries feel invaded, even if nothing bad is happening.
Next one's yours, relational. You use that when talking about how closeness can be a cultural sign of warmth.
Yes, relational is an adjective related to relationships. If something is relational, it means it's about how people connect with one another. In some cultures, physical closeness is a relational thing. It shows friendliness, not aggression.
That's subtle and important.
How about context? We said personal space depends on the context.
Context just means the situation or environment. For example, hugging your best friend is fine in one context, but not in a formal meeting with your boss. So always pay attention to the context before acting. Speaking of bosses, formal setting. Leslie?
Sure. A formal setting is a serious or professional situation, like a job interview, business meeting, or even a ceremony. In these situations, behavior is usually more reserved, including how much personal space people expect. You also said unspoken rule earlier. Can you break that down?
Yep. An unspoken rule is a rule everyone seems to follow, but no one really talks about. Like, not sitting right next to someone in an empty movie theater. No one teaches you that, it's just understood.
Yes. Break that one, and you'll definitely get weird looks.
You brought up nonverbal cues. What's that about?
Nonverbal cues are the signals we give without speaking, like body language, facial expressions, gestures, eye contact. If someone steps back while you're talking, that's a nonverbal cue that maybe you're too close. Okay, explain this one. Read the room. I love that phrase.
It's one of my favorites too. Reading the room means paying attention to people's emotions and reactions so you can adjust your behavior. If everyone looks uncomfortable, maybe now's not the time for jokes or for invading personal space.
Social awareness 101.
What about subconsciously? You used that when you were backing away from your coworker.
Right. If you do something subconsciously, you do it without thinking. Your brain reacts automatically. I might subconsciously avoid eye contact when I feel shy, for example. Let's go to one of our deeper phrases. Hold your ground. What does it mean to hold your ground?
That means to stand firm and not give in. If someone's pushing your boundaries and you say, "No, I'm not comfortable with that," you're holding your ground. It's about sticking to what feels right for you, even if there's pressure. Last one, middle ground. Leslie?
Gladly. Middle ground is a compromise between two extremes. Let's say I like a lot of personal space, and you don't care at all. We can find a middle ground where both of us feel okay. It's about mutual respect.
So, let's reflect. Personal space isn't just about inches or centimeters. It's tied to culture, emotion, comfort, and sometimes even identity.
And there's no universal rule. What feels just right to one person might feel way too close to someone else.
Be aware. Be respectful. And don't be afraid to communicate your needs, kindly.
Before we go, here's a challenge for you, our listeners. Think about your own personal space. Are you more relaxed or more territorial? And if you've lived abroad, did your habits change?
We'd love to hear from you. Share your stories, funny, awkward, or insightful.
And remember, keep your boundaries clear but your heart open.
Beautifully said. Until next time.